Hello, hi, and welcome again to the Terminal Podcast, where in the end, it's all about the numbers. Tonight, we continue this hireman's journey to the castle on the hill with a return of another THS alum to answer a few questions. Please share your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Alex Bleecker. I'm calling from planet Earth. More specifically than that, East Asia. I live in Taipei, Taiwan.
Did you continue your education after we graduated high school?
I did. I went to college in Connecticut, where I did my bachelor's in English, and then became a public school teacher in New York City, where I taught for 10 years. During that time, I got a master's in education. Um, Started off teaching math, eventually transitioned to English, which was what my degree was in and where my passion lies. So I'm a high school English teacher. After 10 years of teaching in New York City, I took a bit of a break from teaching and I moved to Seattle where I continued my education further. I got an MFA in creative writing, specifically in poetics and poetry there. And then I'll give you even more information than you
Well,
asked for.
the next question is what personal details would you like to share since leaving the castle on the hill, which is
Yeah,
more of the personal side. That was the whole work history, but is there
yeah.
any personal details you'd like to share?
I'm combining your questions. I'm giving
Then
you
complete the story.
okay. So lived in Seattle for a few years, got an MFA there, and then decided to return to teaching, but internationally. So I had done small stints teaching in various countries just for a semester here or a quarter there.
Hmm.
But then I decided to go full on abroad teaching. Moved to Cambodia, taught there for a year in Siem Reap. Um, and then after 1 year there, moved to Vietnam, where I taught at a university in Da Nang, Vietnam, before, and that was also just for 1 year, before moving to Taiwan and settling here. And I was teaching here for 8 years, up until this past July when I left my job here and um, I'm now gainfully unemployed, but still living in Taiwan, where I live with my Taiwanese wife and our two Taiwanese cats.
Okay. Well, thank you, but you are here tonight to answer the William E. Brown Memorial Questionnaire. This as build up to the THS Class of 95 30-year reunion on October 18. That event will include a 10:30 a.m. tour of our old stomping ground by a student ambassador with coffee, juice, and Teaneck Bagels to start the day. Later that evening from 6 to 10, there's a full dinner buffet and open bar at Napoli Restaurant in Fort Lee with music by our own DJ Chalice. There's more info, including discounted hotel info and how to pay for all this fun. Check the Invite Me link in the description for full details, or you can find more information on the Facebook group or I'm Instagram probably has something. Hopefully it does. I don't know. I'm not on social medias like that. Hence the 30-year anniversary. You'd have to ask somebody else. As a former winner of this prestigious and random award, I'm here to ask someone else random questions, and after your answers, you may receive the same accolades that I did. Are you ready?
Dare to dream. Yes,
Question,
sir.
you ready? Question one. Do you still think and or say you're from New Jersey?
Yes, I do. In fact, I have to tell people where I'm from quite often because I live so far from home. And
Mm,
just most recently, I think it was 2 days ago, someone asked where I was from, and I told them New Jersey.
okay.
I rep it hard.
Question worldwide. Question two. What was your favorite mall growing up?
Oh, favorite mall growing up was Garden State Plaza because we really only had the three malls then. There have been, uh, I imagine, more built since, but there was always Riverside Mall, which was
Hmm.
like a little too elevated, a little bougie, for
Yeah,
teenagers, wallet. And then you had the Stearns Mall. I think back then it was called the Stearns Mall. That
I
place
believe
is
that's
blown up, but back then, um, yeah, that place was a little grimy. I felt like they kind of like were across the sides of Route 4, right? Like
hmm
almost directly across the street. You had like almost kind of like this is where this is where the Habs shop, and this is where kind of like the grittier side of things. But then going down when you hit Route 17, you had Garden State Plaza, and that place had it all. It was bigger. It had more diversity of shops. It was more geared toward younger people. That was the place to take
So with
a
all
date.
that being said, with all that being said, when was the
Yeah,
last time you were in an actual mall? Is
in a mall,
in a
like
mall?
a proper mall. Um,
I guess what would be your definition of a mall? I was gonna say I don't know. I believe the Taiwanese and Japanese and East Asia and all have similar malls. I've had people tell me about yeah
yeah,
other
and we
places.
have proper
So
malls here, not just like strip malls either. Like what
so
they
when
call
was the
malls in
last time?
Florida, those ain't malls to
Ah,
me. Uh, the last time I was in a mall was it would have been here
yeah,
in Taiwan
I would hope
because
so.
they do it like there's a quite weird phenomenon here where the basements of the malls are where the high-end restaurants are. So if you want to eat well, you're going down to where there are no windows. And
Interesting.
there's a pretty famous Taiwanese restaurant called Din Tai Fung, which has branches all over the world. I believe there's one in New York. I know there's one in New York. Yeah, actually, there are several in New York nowadays. And so the Din Tai Fungs in Taiwan are always in the basement. And a couple months ago, had some friends visiting, and we took them to a Din Tai Fung. So we were in the basement of the mall. That was the last time.
Okay. Question number three.
I'm
Have
on it.
you ever used advanced math like pre-calculus or trigonometry since high school?
Not only have I not used advanced math like pre-calculus or trigonometry since high school, um, in my life, I've never even used it in an academic context. Oh wait, no, sorry, no. Okay, technically I'm lying. Yes, I have because in college
I was gonna
I
say
had to,
before you could
I
get
had
out.
requirements. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to take calculus. So I did take calculus in college. I'm assuming I used it then because I passed the
Well,
class.
you took the course, but since then that was sort of it's like since then
Since
I
then, yeah, hard
yeah
no.
okay
And I was a math teacher, and I taught up to ninth grade math, which got as high as like trigonometry,
well it's
algebra
pre-trig and all that
trigonometry.
stuff yeah
Yeah,
the
but not
early
nothing
the
more than
early
like SOHCAHTOA, though. Nothing more involved than that. If anybody
okay
remembers what that acronym is about.
I
So,
do
yeah, great question.
do not I do not. I'll move on to question four, and this is going to be a fun one. What do you think of drivers from other states, but what do you think of drivers from other countries compared to just period? I can't answer. I can't ask it any other way because if you've lived in other, you're in Taiwan, but in Vietnam and other places where driving is different from where it is in America, certainly. But
Very, very
it,
much so. Um, I'd say it's a mixed bag depending on where you are. Uh, I lived in Seattle for 5 years. Seattle drivers are incredibly polite and accommodating and will, like, if you're trying to get onto a highway, the they'll slow down to let you on to the point where it starts to build up a line of traffic behind your entry ramp. Uh, So that was pretty refreshing and nice. But people also don't use their horns in Seattle, which was nice coming out of New York where I lived. Um, and then moving out to Southeast Asia, I lived in Cambodia and Vietnam. I lived in a big city in Vietnam, and it's Thunderdome out there, especially when you're on a scooter, like a motorbike. Um, where there's just no rule of law whatsoever. Uh, so that was a bit harrowing. Didn't care for that much. Taiwanese drivers are very much more like Seattle drivers, super polite, super careful, super defensive. So, you know, I think it depends on where you are.
Okay. Question number 5. Do you still have or wear any of the clothing you wore in high school? Does
I
it
don't
stump you?
believe I do. I don't think I have
Okay.
any of the clothing that I wore in high school or in college,
Nothing buried in a
even.
bag in some family's basement or something along those lines. I mean, if not, if not.
No,
Okay.
no. Yeah, unfortunately, no. I was back in Teaneck this past year though, and they sell all kinds of Teaneck swag at like the Walmarts and the CVS's nowadays, which they did
Mm,
not when we were there. And
mm, true.
I was sizing the shirt. They had a nice shirt. It kind of had like the sort of like old school, like like the cursive Brooklyn font, but for Teaneck. Uh,
Hmm.
and I liked it, but the fit wasn't right. So sadly, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Question 6. Do you remember the black door and the white door?
Yeah, I do. If I remember right, the white door was on the uh, north side of the school, and the black door was on the south side of the school. Black, but then again, like I remember the Jamaican door also, and I don't know if I'm confusing the Jamaican door with the black door. But I do remember racially designated entrances to our high school.
Your thoughts on those doors 30 years later? I I
Like,
apologize. You did just give them, so I apologize because you answered that question and
that's okay. I'll
as
say though that like I think the door entrances obviously reflected like the the ease of access of the two demographic populations of our school. Where most of the white kids came from was that way, and where most of the black kids came from was that way. Uh, I remember hearing stuff like kids talking about like how they were, like white, especially like underclassmen white kids would be like afraid to use the black door. I'd be like, yeah, I think some of those designations were just meant to scare you, so get over it. It'll be okay. You can use those doors without getting jumped. Yeah. But
okay.
maybe that's just my ignorance. I don't
There is no wrong answer.
know.
Question number 7. Who did you have a crush on that never knew?
um, that never knew.
Never knew is the key. I mean, if everybody that you had a crush on acted on, then and the answer is no, then that's fine. That's fine as well. But
Yeah. I'm gonna go with you, Marty Kester. You.
yeah, and with that,
And with that being said,
question 8. Since we've graduated, how far have you physically traveled from Teaneck High School? That's sort of the center point. So you're there. If there, as there, how far have you gone? Would you from Teaneck
I
High
mean,
School?
right. Whilst remaining within the atmosphere, I don't know that one could go much further. I am literally halfway around the world from the US. Uh,
Any other
but
places on
yeah,
said
yeah, yeah.
side of the world?
I've spent a significant amount of time in India for various projects and occasions. Um, and I'd say like the furthest reaches from America have been certainly East Asia, well, all of Asia, now East Asia. Like I said, South Asia, India, and Sri Lanka. And I've traveled in the Horn of Africa, so East Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya.
Okay. Question 9. What do you remember the science classrooms looking like at Teaneck High School?
Um, I remember spigots. I remember a lot of spigots, like faucets, curved
Mm,
faucets at like every other desk station, kind of, uh, for lab work. Um, I remember that. Yeah,
you
like
mentioned two children. I guess are they old enough that they would have a science classroom that you visited, or not yet?
sorry, mentioned
I
what?
said you mentioned you have oh no, you mentioned you have two cats. I'm sorry. So
No kids.
your cats wouldn't have gone to a science classroom. I apologize. They're
That's
scientists
okay.
on their own. Yeah, because they could
Yeah, yeah,
climb up
they're
on
not
that.
quite there yet. Although, but
Well,
I've been a high school teacher for 20 years, so I know what science classrooms do look like. Um,
so have they?
and
How much, or if they changed?
I guess so I've been teaching in Taiwan for most of the past decade, and the at a public school, actually, an international bilingual public school here.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have the polish and gloss that a high-end international private school would have. Um, and so the science classrooms in public schools here at high schools in Taiwan actually don't look that much different from the science classrooms that we had 30 years ago in public school in the States. Yeah, kind of
Okay.
rough around the edges, pretty raw. They look like workshops for experiments. Yeah.
that that question, because I visited my daughter's classrooms and was just like, this looks exactly like when I was in science class, and it was, it's
Oh, really? Except they
you,
got
you
smart boards now, right?
well. Question number 10. What do you remember most from your life before graduation? There's obviously tons of moments that you've had, but is there one sort of standout moment that when you think back about your life before you graduated from Teaneck High School, that this is one thing that happened?
Moment. So, what single particular moment do I remember? Not like what do I remember in general my life being like? Is your question? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, is there sort of one thing it's like, this is sort of something that, happened or signified what, or just this happened. This was a great moment that I think back on. It's
Yeah, I got
however
one of
you'd like
those
to answer it.
actually. I want to answer this very specifically, and it's because so my wife is Taiwanese, and
Hmm.
you'll appreciate this because you were there, I believe. Um, and Taiwan is enamored with baseball, so my wife is a big baseball fan. Now, as you, Martin, know, and others may, I played baseball my whole life in Teaneck up until
Yeah.
senior year. Um, and but for me, so baseball was a big part of my life in Teaneck, um, especially summers because it was when summer league all stars from grade I don't know 4 through 11, like those are some of the most enjoyable memories of my life. And um, so I was home this past summer with my wife going through my old things, and I found a baseball, and it was marked. There was writing on it, and I was like, "Oh my Lord!" Okay, so here's the deal. We were playing. I guess it must have been like 10th or 11th grade, and we had a summer traveling all star league game. I believe it was against Rochelle Park, who were notoriously pretty bad. Um, we were decent, especially when we were all in high school. Like Teaneck Summer All Stars was always kind of mediocre, but we had a really good team, I remember. And by the time we were in high school, we were killing it. And we were playing Rochelle Park, and we were blowing them out. And I was a I was either a pitcher or a first baseman at that point, and I
I
was
was
a
gonna
glove.
say left. Go ahead. No,
And you were a catcher. You caught me several
I
times. I
was
know that.
gonna say that's why I'm going. He's a left-handed starter. He was a left-handed first baseman, which is obviously what Keith Hernandez will tell you is the ideal position to have in terms of the way you're able to
You
reach
know
for
it.
the ball and everything like
You
that.
know
Yeah,
it.
no, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
picture of you pitching in my head somewhere that it was somewhere it was but yeah, no. Go ahead, continue. I apologize. Continue on.
that's all right. Um, you're getting excited about it. I appreciate that. Anyway, um, I was not much of a hitter though. I would get base hits occasionally. Never hit a home run in my life. We're
Mm.
playing Rochelle Park. I get up there and the score is probably 10-1 at that point. We're blowing them out, and the game's getting boring. We're in the fourth or fifth or something like that. Everybody just kind of wants it to like, let's go, let's speed it up. We're all kind of flagging on the bench, and I hit this pop fly down the right field line, and I don't know. It must have had some Wrigley Field moment because the wind just kept like pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and it was towering. And by the time I rounded first, it like dropped about a foot just behind right field fence and about a foot fair. And it was the my first and only out of the park home run. And I was like freaking out beside myself. And everybody was like, got up from the dugout and was like, did that just really happen? Did Alex actually just hit a home run? Yes, Alex actually had just hit a home run. And I like did my trot, came back, high fives the whole nine, feeling great. And I think I was batting maybe third. Maybe I was on a hot streak just for those few games. And so, which meant that Brendan Gill came up right after me.
Mm.
And, and the first pitch, I remember this well. I hit what I had hit, what was basically a glorified pop foul ball that, like, hand of God, get me a
Right
home run.
down the pole.
Brendan
Yeah.
Gill comes up, first pitch, he hits a line drive into Oradell. It was like 3 towns over. We couldn't even see where it landed if we even wanted to ever go get that baseball again. So it's like sort of dwarfed my accomplishment, but I hold on to that moment. And I had that baseball and I found it a few months ago. That's my moment for you, Marty. And I believe you were there.
That is perfect. You have reached the end and shall receive the same accolades as this former winner. Thank you very much. As always, the Terminal Podcast ends with a trivia question. As I mentioned to him off camera, off air, there are two pictures of the two of us standing together in the yearbook. Isn't it funny how time flies for those who can get old? Can you buy old yearbooks? I don't even think that's possible. But the two photos is we are in the class photo with everybody on the stairs. We are holding up the 1995 in the class photo together with other class
Evan Munoz and Rashida Davis. Yeah, yeah.
no
Officers.
Zakia
No.
Zakia
Oh, Zakia,
Washington
Zakia.
and
Yeah, yeah.
Who Daryl Bookbinder at the time. I don't know if is it Bookbinder? I always wonder if I'm getting that right or wrong. But
That's her. That was her
either
name.
way,
I'm not sure.
that was if it's still, I
Am
don't
I
know.
wrong though? Kevin
But
Munoz is not there? Okay.
I say all that because I was the vice president. And I jokingly say because I listened to too much Eddie Murphy stand up, both delirious and raw. I remember he had a joke about how Jesse Jackson gave speeches moving around because the sniper rifle wouldn't be able to hit him. He's because my fellow Americans and everything like that. He's moving back and forth. Uh, the other black politician Murphy mentions in his comedy special is Harold Washington, who became the first African American to be elected the city of Chicago's mayor at the age of 60. He would die only 5 years later, but the random number that I'm looking for is what year did Harold Washington die?
Well, if I heard you right, I'm pretty sure you just said he was elected in 1960 and would die 5 years later. So I'm going to do some real basic math there. 1965?
1965 is his answer. Thanks for listening to the latest W.E. Brown questionnaire. Once again, this is a promotional tool for the THS Class of 95 30th reunion on October 18. Events include a return to the Castle on the Hill, discounted hotel rooms, a full dinner buffet, and open bar, along with fellow highwayman DJ Chalice on the Wheels of Steel. Check the Invite Me link in the descriptions for full details and the answer to this trivia question. I'll be back soon enough with hopefully something better to put down. Alex, thank you very much for taking time out of your morning.
Thanks, Martin. Hope you guys have a great time. I wish I could be there. I'll be there in spirit.
Take it easy down your life's highway and have a good evening or morning or whatever.